Welcome to Birch Tree Studios, the home of 1013 Publications. This is 40 Below Zero, an international show about chronic illness hosted by two guys with MS. I'm your co-host Nick, and with me as always is Terry. We're so glad all of our warriors and supporters are here with us, so let's get into it.
So hello, New York City. This is Dr. Vaigneur at Disabilities Redefined. I am here with a very good friend and a very new friend. They have a great podcast, which I'm going to give them the honor to introduce. I love the name, but I'm not going to spoil it for you. What we're going to do this evening is we're going to have our conversation. They're going to put this on their podcast, and we're going to use the film for an episode of Disabilities Redefined. And so having said that, I'm going to turn it over to the younger generation. And they
I don't know how much younger, but thank you.
And they're going to take over. All right, guys, hit it.
What's going on, man? First of all, I don't think we're much younger than you. Like, you don't have to, feel uncomfortable around us because you definitely look young. You know that. Okay.
All right.
I want to introduce you to, all right. Let me introduce you to Nick, first of all, since I've been talking about him and you never got to meet him. Nick, this is Dr. I would assume in Canada, a lot of people would pronounce her name Vaigneur, but it's not pronounced that way, right? It's Vaigneur, Dr. Vaigneur.
Yes, Dr. Vaigneur.
Okay. It's just the way it's spelled. I feel like Canadians would get that wrong.
Hello, doctor. Good to meet you. I'm kind of your neighbor. I'm from down around Philadelphia, so not too far away.
Wait, hang on a second. So you're not hanging out with Terry tonight?
No, what? Not to get ahead of Terry's introduction, but the show is done internationally simultaneously. He's where he is in Canada, and I'm down here in Philly. So this is how we roll.
You guys are great. I love it. I love it.
That's why the name 40 Below Zero comes into play. Because and this is new to me when actually I think Nick came up with the idea.
I did. I figured what connects us, and the thing that connects us is the MS that we share, Terry and I. And how else can we bring that together? Well, he experiences 40 below zero the same that we do. Whether we're running Fahrenheit or Celsius, we both experience it the same. So that was kind of the crux. It was like, we're all the same universally. So let's dispel all the myths and rumors and have a good time talking about how all this disease impacts our life. So that's where it started.
Did you know that 40 below zero is the same in Celsius as in Celsius and Fahrenheit? Just curious.
I did not know that.
It's not funny.
I am a social scientist, not a bio or chem or any of the above.
You are well experienced. I'm like, how do I introduce this guy? This guy has like 15 minutes of introduction needed. First of all, you're a doctor of education degree, right?
Yes, I have. What I have is an EDD, an educational doctorate, because when I left my first line of work, which was mostly commercial print modeling and featured background, they never let me speak into movies because I have a funny accent. And I'm not trying to be funny when I say funny accent. I was born down south and I grew up in England, late teens, early 20s in England. Also had a speech impediment growing up. They would send me to speech there. I wouldn't take it seriously, the whole 9 yards. So I was just featured kind of background stuff. I made a living, but it wasn't going nowhere. So when I finally left that field and got back into my education, which I was really eager to do years before I did it. And that's something I wish somebody had just said, Truett, it's okay to leave this work, go do what you want to do. And so when I finally got the guts and backbone to leave what I was so comfortable doing, if that makes any sense to you two, then I got into a master's degree, got very lucky because I had a pretty good transcript, pretty good test scores. And they picked me up for the OASIS, Office of Alcoholism and Substance Abuse Services program, which the city sent me to school to counsel in a methadone facility for recovering addicts. and I had to sign a contract that I would stay there for 2 years after graduation. So 2 years of a master's degree, which wasn't easy. It was a tough degree.
Of course, yeah.
And then I was working full time, and then 2 years after.
Mhm.
Great job, changed my life. My whole perspective of everything became very clear, and I realized just how lucky I had had it and how fortunate I had been, and how much I wanted to help people, which I always knew I did. But being a mental health professional is I'm not, it was tough. It is very tough. And regardless of what they kept telling me at school, don't take it home with you, try to create a barrier. I couldn't do that because I just cared too much.
Mhm.
So that's whenever, about 2 weeks before my 2-year contract to pay back the city was over, I got hired at the City University of New York to be a career counselor for disabled college students, or college students who are disabled, depending on what, how you want to define that.
Mhm.
So and that was a dream job. That's a job I always wanted to do. I was super close with a blind cousin growing up. I was a few years older than her. Nevertheless, she was everything to me, and she passed away in her late teens when I was over in England. So it was something that I had always really wanted to do, and things just kind of fell together. When I kind of grew up and got responsible and went back to school and started doing what I wanted to do. It wasn't easy. Let me tell you, kids, I was already in my mid-30s at the time, and I had to go back and live on an internship salary.
Oh,
Yeah, but I mean, it wasn't easy, but it worked out, and one thing led to another, and then I ended up with the job at the City University of New York, and I stuck with it and started teaching, and gradually got into a doctorate program, a really good one. But to answer your question, Terry,
Mhm.
like this story doesn't need to be even a little bit longer now. What happens is that I did not want to become a psychologist after my 4 years of counseling recovering addicts. I did not want to go that deep into mental health counseling.
Okay.
I'll be honest, I couldn't. It just wasn't for me, and I think that it would not be fair to anyone for me to take on that responsibility, knowing that it was too hard on me. So that's when I got into career counseling. And
Okay.
I love it. I love it. So my doctorate is an EDD, educational doctorate, but mostly it focused on research, qualitative research, how to do research. I focused a lot on Erik Erikson and his 8 stages of identity development, which, Nick, you seem to know what that is. Your eyebrows went up there. So,
yeah.
it was great. And yeah.
My oldest daughter is currently working on her bachelor's degree in psychology, and she has read me the DSM-5 several times. So, and then she constantly reminds me of the ways that I should be improving myself using many of the models that you're familiar with. So when you say names like that, I'm like, yep, she's told me about that guy.
Well, the classics are all about. I love the classics. I love the classics in psych, and of course, I don't do much research anymore. After I finished my doctorate degree, again, something that just wasn't for me. Scholarship wasn't for me. I did send my dissertation out. I got picked up by 2 publication companies. Neither one got good review, or one I didn't go with. The other one I did. It got horrible review. The first review was horrible. Everybody said it was too creative. It was not scholarship. So then I said, okay, well, then that's what they feel. I'm not going to cry about it. So then I got busy and wrote my first children's book, and now I'm working on my 3rd children's book. So there you
What
go.
what are the children's books about? Because that's a
Children's
heck of a
books
leap.
all have a theme of not overcoming, because I don't believe we have to overcome disabilities. We don't overcome them. They stay with the person who was disabled. And I speak to people all the time who actually tell me that they're feel fortunate for their disability. And that's not my words. I do want to start off by saying I'm not disabled. And Terry, you and I have had this conversation before. Okay. I'm the target of a lot of social media slings and arrows because everything I do in life is about disabilities. And Believe me, I get a lot of slack for that. But the children's books are about children who learn to love themselves and their abilities and who they are. And based on there are limits to their disabilities, but they learn to love their abilities. And one is based around a swimmer. The other is based around, this one is a lot of fun, a little boy who loves flowers, and he makes hats for all of his mother's friends with fake flowers because he's allergic to flowers. And he has CP. So you guys should check it out.
Awesome. So can I add that I would have done a way better intro than you, but thanks for the introduction. You saved me a lot of breath. I'm joking, you know that. And yeah, I have things written down here. So yeah, you're an author. I think you've said it just now. 2 books.
I've written 2 children's books, working on the 3rd.
Working on the 3rd. Are you currently in school now?
I am currently in school. I'm currently in school, and that's only Terry did his homework. I'll have to hand it to him there. I'm only in school. Well, no, I'm in school because I love to learn, but I'm in school also, and this is not going to affect my life. My income will not go up. I'm not doing this for any kind of promotion. I don't want to be promoted. I love the level of my level at the City University of New York, where I'm at. I'm doing this because whenever I became a HEO, higher educational officer, they waive your tuition in master's level courses at the City University of New York. So unfortunately, most degrees at the City University of New York, they want you to be a matriculated student. So in order for me to take disability related courses, such as disability in law and disability in the media and all these great courses that I learn about disabilities in a classroom setting, which is online, but it's still a classroom setting, I had to be a matriculated student. So I got the BA, MA, and doctorate. Then I had to go all the way back to do another master's degree to learn about something I've been doing for nearly 20 years now. If that makes any sense to anybody.
Makes total sense. So my profession before the disability was I was in public safety. I did police, fire, and EMS. And I was constantly starting over in school because no matter how high you went up in one tier, the minute you needed to get to the next level, it was like, oh, you got to go all the way back and climb your way back in. So I totally understand what you're saying. I've taken the same class 5 or 6 times.
So you're also a member of SAG-AFTRA. Please tell me I'm saying it right. Please tell me I'm saying it right. SAG.
I'm a member of SAG-AFTRA only because that was, like I said earlier, my first line of work. I'm not a trained actor by any means. I was a commercial print model. I did work for AT&T. Sorry.
It's okay.
It worked for, sorry guys, I had a smoothie. I had a peanut butter mood smoothie from one of those smoothie places that they have.
Let me just get my assistant to grab me a smoothie.
It was delicious, but I think it's got my throat a little dry now afterward. But what happens is that I got into SAG, the Screen Actors Guild, and years ago, and then even after I had stopped, then I still pay my dues. I still want to keep up with my dues. It's a great thing. I keep telling people that there are 2 pieces of paper in my life I'm very proud of. One of which is the doctorate on the wall, and the other of which is the one in my wallet that says SAG-AFTRA, because that is a very, very hard thing to get into. Yes.
What do you think of the strike happening? I know it's kind of over. Not really.
I will be very happy when it's over, because actors need to make a living, and so do writers. You know, we think about actors as living in great big homes in Bel Air or Beverly Hills, but the vast majority of actors are working class actors that might be able to do a movie and relax for 3-4 months. But after that, you know, the bank account needs to be replenished, you know. So in that respect, most actors that I knew, or all actors that I knew, because I didn't know anybody famous, we were all working class, you know, actors, model actors, you know, so it was like we had to work. It wasn't like the ones you see on Entertainment Tonight, or, you know, nobody was doing a Johnny Depp, Amber Heard situation. No, it was Kardashian, whom I love, by the way, but I'm just saying, you know, we were not that like we worked for our paychecks, man. We had to work.
Who's Johnny Depp? Just joking.
But Terry, we had a show. You guys, we had a show
I
about disabilities in Hollywood. Nix, do you know? Do you know about that? Terry was on my show twice.
He said he mentioned something very briefly about it, but didn't go into great detail. I think he was a little embarrassed. I can tell by his smile now that he. So let's talk about it in depth,
Had
please.
nothing to be embarrassed of. Both of those shows did quite well on YouTube and on here in New York City,
dude,
which is where the show is
I have
aired on
so much
TV.
love for you. You know that. Like I've kept in contact. He supports me even though I kind of ghosted everybody. When my dog died, I went through a little thing. And but he was always there, and I always felt like he was family to me. I don't know what it is, but he brought me on his show a second time. I don't know why but I really appreciate it.
Because you're a good guest. That's why.
You're awesome.
And we
Thank you so
needed
much.
somebody with the other two that were also young and hip, and we needed somebody to bounce off of them. And it was a great show. We talked about disabilities in Hollywood, people doing comedy, disabled people doing comedy. And it was a very good show. This was after his initial show. And the first show, I remember before we started, he was like, I'm a little nervous. And I was like, don't worry, it'll be fine. And when it was over, I was like, dude, you said you were nervous? It was like, a good guest is a guest. I always say a good guest is a guest who's going to talk.
Sure,
No matter
yes,
what.
exactly.
A good guest on a show is a guest that's going to talk. Because I will be very honest with you. We all of my guests are either disabled or disabilities advocates, such as lawyers, but we very rarely ever talk about that. It always ends up being, I have a lot of contestants and winners from Miss Wheelchair USA, and we end up talking about what they're doing and who that kind of, it's not, of course, we touch on that because that's why they're on the show. If they're on the show, if it were not for them being beauty queens, they would not be on the show, or models or whatever. But like Jaleesa Graham, for example, she's another one. She Tommy Hilfiger model. She's been on the show a few times. We talk about her disability as an amputee, but I mean, people want to hear about what's it like on a shoot with Tommy Hilfiger, as opposed, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
We do that. We try to do kind of the same thing when we bring people. Like we interview complete nobodies that you've never heard of, and give them a voice to tell their story, all the way up to we've interviewed, like yourself, TV personalities. I always say without Terry, we wouldn't have any connections. The show would be boring because he seems to know everybody. But same thing. We just talk about stuff.
Let me tell you, when he comes into a room, it's like,
Stop it.
I do.
Right.
Stop it.
That's why I wanted to start a show with him.
I want to talk to you about the attacks that you get. I am so interested.
About the attacks I get?
Yeah, I hope it just doesn't trigger you in any way, okay? But
well, listen, I'll have to say they've come less and less, and I think that they have become less and less, primarily because I've been interviewed by quite a few affluent advocates and prominent disabled influencers that have understood where I'm coming from. Listen, I will be the first one to make this statement. I do not understand what it is like to be disabled. For me, or any able-bodied advocate or activist to make that statement would be an incredible insult to the disabled population. Okay, we don't have that identity. And like everybody who has their own identity, it needs to be respected and respected and not in any way lessened or just
discredited. Yes.
What was the word you just used?
Discredited.
Discredited. That's a great
way of totally
saying it.
Yeah.
So I think you two know where I'm coming from on that.
Yep.
So I'll also be the first one to say that my voice, when it comes to disability rights and experiences and advocacy, doesn't mean half as much as someone who in fact has the lived experience. That's just common sense. So I'm not trying to in any way take anybody's place or position. I'm just here to advocate and to be as supportive as I can. And I think a lot of it in the beginning was because I am in education, I do teach, and I did make several statements that I did not think that anyone who taught disability studies really is a criteria that they be disabled. I believe that someone who teaches disability studies should have the qualifications to teach disability studies.
Right.
Whether they're disabled or not. Now, obviously, if you're disabled, you're going to bring a lot of personal, colorful flavor and feel to it. But that should in no way mean that you're going to get the job over someone who has, more qualified or, because of a disability.
Yeah.
I've actually had disabled people get in touch with me to my defense and say, they've had people who taught disability studies and the class was primarily about the one teaching it. So sometimes, and now I didn't say that. That is coming from people who in fact have reached out to me during these attacks, that have happened.
Yeah.
And so in that respect, but they've become less and less. And I really believe the reason why is because I have been on other people like you two. I have been on other people's podcasts to where I can verbalize my respect and admiration for the disabled population. And really, I know my place within the disabled population. And I'm just here to advocate and support. So, it is. And also, I'm just getting older. In the beginning, it would really crush me and I would be angry. I would never really lash out. I would not lash out anyway. I mean, but for example, I remember one time I asked to join a wheelchair group on this was years ago when Facebook was popular. Now I don't even know if you two even have a Facebook account. You're so young.
I have a placeholder.
At the end of the day. And I was asked to join a group. It was wheelchair users or something. And I think they just saw the show. And actually one of the members got in touch and was like, what are you doing? Where's the wheelchair? What are you doing? How dare? And then I wrote back, I'm like, well, first of all, excuse me, but I was asked to join. And second of all, I do have a talk show. Check it out. I sent the link. That person then turned out to be super cool. And they were like, oh man, I'm so sorry. But whenever I first saw you, I was like, what's this guy doing? So sometimes it actually has turned into a learning moment for everybody. To go through those kind of attacks. On the other hand, I've had people who literally would not leave me alone for 2 months, just harass. And, so it is what it is.
When I was on your show the second time, when I was part of the panel, that's one of the topics we talked about. Actors with disabilities playing roles of disability. You know what I mean? That's what we were talking about, which is funny because that was 3 years ago, at least 3 years ago. One thing that I need to talk to you about, this is side note, England. You lived in England. Did I tell you that I lived in England too? I have a history with England.
Oh no, where were you?
Yeah, I was okay. I was in London. Every time I say this, someone's like, oh, you were posh. Okay, relax. I was young. We moved to England because I was in Saudi. I went to an American school, and during the Gulf War, we had to get the hell out of that country. And we went to England, and I stayed there for a good 2 years. Actually, I used to go there every year for a summer vacation. We had a flat there in London. I even know my postal code. Does that help you? Anyway, so that's
I do not remember my postal code. I don't remember all of that. I remember the street that we lived on. I remember
me too.
I loved England. What I hated about London was it shut down so early. I was so young whenever I was over there. It was like London shuts down like around 1 or something. Back then it did. We're talking about in the early 90s. It's been years since I've been over there. So
I used to go to Piccadilly Circus. I used to go to Piccadilly Circus on my own all the time at the age of like 12, 10, 11. But this isn't the 90s.
I wasn't over there then. I went over there like around 19. Yeah. Okay. I love the pubs. I love the tradition. I love the old country homes.
Mm-hmm.
I really did love a lot of things about England. The weather, a lot of people did not like the weather. A lot of Americans could not stand, it was always damp and dry. I loved that.
Yeah.
It was always had a feeling of everything was kind of like a Woody Allen movie every day.
Okay. Back on topic. I have a question for you. Are you more fulfilled as a counselor or an advocate?
Wait, am I what now?
Are you more fulfilled as a counselor or an advocate?
You know, that is a very good question, Terry. It is a very good question because um, all of my advocacy work is pretty much volunteering. This talk show that I do, getting back to the attacks that people at times thought that this was some money-making venture, I support this talk show on all levels.
Oh, no way. Okay.
The children's books that I write, I choose by choice to self-publish because I want to hire an illustration or artist uh, from a university to start their career, to give them some resume experience, something to throw on their resume, you know. So all of that, Miss Wheelchair USA, well, they take care of me whenever, you know, but it's not like anybody's paying me. So the after work, like I guess you would say, after the 9 to 5 at the university, is super fulfilling. The work on the university is equally fulfilling because I'm with the same population. I'm doing what I love to do. I get to help and encourage people along the way. And you know, so I don't even know if that's really even an answer. I think this is the answer. Let me answer it this way. The older I get, the more I want to get back into my creative energy and urges. You know, I keep telling people when I retire, I'm going to finally live the life of a struggling artist.
That's
So I think probably I'm leaning more toward the advocacy work, but my job means a lot to me. It really does. And let me tell you something, for anybody out there listening, for whatever race, gender identity, able, disabled, religion, if you like what you do, you will be able to have a happy life. You know, you really will. And
well said.
And I think that is, if you look at it, that's the basis of so many movements. You know, really, so many social movements. Just being, even Betty Friedan said, when you like,
yeah.
the mother of the feminist movement, whenever you do well at work, you're going to have a better sex life, ladies. You know, and again, that's not me saying it. That was her. So, you know, yeah. So in that respect, I really do believe that having a solid career that you can give to society, and it can mean something to yourself, is really a crucial part of being happy. I don't know. What do you two think? I'm up here doing all the talking, and you guys gotta answer some questions. So I don't.
True.
I just can't believe you get hate mail or attacks and stuff, because ever since I've known you, you come out very humble and genuine to get these.
Well, I think it's lessening, Terry, because when I'm on the people shows like this, people see that, you know.
Yeah,
so
I think initially there's this reservation from the disabled community that, and it doesn't matter the disability, it's that they just don't want to be turned into a sideshow. So they have to be guarded, especially if someone who doesn't have exactly the same thing as them. Like Terry and I became instant friends because we had MS.
We're friends.
Easy. Oh, we're not? Dang.
But
but you know what I'm saying? Like, they just want to make sure that they're not going to be exploited in any sense, especially from somebody who doesn't have the same disability. But once you get over that and people know that you're sincere and legit, you know, then you're right. It does fade away. Cause that even happened with me, not to the degree, but just to a little bit. Cause I only use my wheelchair part-time. I'm not, you know, I still walk around. So sometimes people see me and they're like, are you lying? Are you faking? You can't have MS because I see you one day and you're this way and the other, you know. So I get it. I understand where the hate would come from.
And not sure you know, but Nick Nick's other half has written a book as well, is an
Oh,
author.
yeah, she's an author.
You guys have
She's
something in common, might as well.
Yep, yep.
What kind of book did she write, Nick?
She started a series. It's a fictitious romance about two fire companies in Pennsylvania. It's first in a series, and this is her second act. This all came about after my disability. Because when I was working, it was primarily me working. So when I was no longer able to work and was, placed on disability, your bills don't stop, but the money does to some degree. So I took a 60% paycheck cut when I went on disability. So to bridge that gap, she tapped into her creative side and took off writing books and all sorts of creative things.
Excellent. Well, can I find it on Amazon? Where
Yes, it's called A Selfless Life. It's available on Amazon, Kindle Unlimited, everywhere. Barnes and Noble, I think.
Who published
So
her book?
what would they do? They would say that you're not really disabled, or what would happen? Would you get like messages on Instagram, or would people confront you in the street? What would?
Well, people that I knew or people that I know in my day-to-day life would, yes, they would actually say, listen, I know you're not being real. I know you're faking it. And I would say, so you mean to tell me that I convinced a federal judge that I deserve disability by faking it? They see hundreds of people a week who some of them are actually faking it and they can tell. But I'm like, you don't understand. So then I would use it as a learning opportunity, a teaching opportunity, and say, look, you clearly don't know anything about this autoimmune disease with all these hidden symptoms. Like, for example, right now, you don't know I'm blind in my left eye. My eye tracks normally, but if I didn't say it, you would probably never know. And a whole host of other things. So I said, no, sit down. Let me teach you. And then when I met Terry, I was like, you know what? Let's start a show. Let's educate people. I know that, I've since learned that there's hundreds of people like us out here doing it, which is awesome because I'm making some amazing friends and I meet new amazing people who are doing crazy things all the time.
Just like Dr. Vaigneur.
Yeah,
Sorry.
that's what I'm like.
That was so cheesy.
It's cheesy, but it's true. It's true because we've interviewed television personalities. We interviewed, we're friends with a guy who biked across Canada to raise money and awareness. Like, there's just a crazy amount of people. When I hit record and I send it out into the universe, just, you get what you get back what you give. And Terry and I give all this love and encouragement and education. And exactly, we're it feels selfish, doesn't it? Like you're getting all this, you're getting fulfilled, but you're like, I don't want to be selfish, but I'm trying to help other people.
It's very therapeutic.
That was something else too that I completely and totally understand. But listen, that gets back to Terry's question. We want to do things in life that make us happy. And if helping other people make us happy, then everybody wins in our circle.
Mm-hmm.
So
Absolutely.
in that respect, it is because I can't see you all really doing this just to get attention. Listen, anybody who's put on a podcast or put on a talk show, it's just not like you show up and then it's there. You have work to do.
Mm-hmm.
So in that respect, it's not just as simple as people think it is. But absolutely, again, getting back to Terry's question, which was a great question, when we do what we really like to do and we can tap into that whatever it is that you enjoy doing, and you can tap into it. And for those of us who have a need to give back and make other people happy and are nurturing and are all of the above, I think that everybody wins if it all comes together. Something I've learned, getting back again to the question that was asked earlier, I'm not going to be, and nor is Terry and nor is Nick, going to be everybody's cup of tea. Not everybody's going to love us. Mm-hmm. And for those people who don't, then that really might not be our business. listen, if somebody says something about me that's not up in my face, I'm inclined to say that's not my business and move on and keep on keeping on.
When we first started this show, we kind of agonized over the analytics of it. You know, oh, did we get so many plays, and are we getting listeners? Are we on all the right platforms? Then I heard this fantastic interview with Rick Rubin, and he talked about they were asking him about all his Grammys that he had won with all this music that he had made. And he said, I don't know the key to making songs that win me Grammys. I just know what I like, and people happen to like it. And I was like, let's just make a show we like and not even worry about it. And that's kind of where we went with it. And it's just been taken off ever since.
It's
There
a
you
hobby,
go.
a hobby,
And see, you're
therapeutic.
helping.
Yeah.
I'm
yeah.
sorry. I'm sorry, Terry. What did you say?
No, please. I said it's a hobby. It's therapeutic. You know, we're doing this for fun. We're not doing this to grow, to make money. You know,
Oh
none of
yeah,
that stuff.
exactly. That's what I was. Yeah, I mean, and again, getting back to both of your point, you know, and again, your people, the people in your inner circle, and the people who listen to it, and the people who can take something away from it, you know, hey, everybody wins. So
I especially find the greatest joy when people who are not disabled say to me, I learned something, or I don't have MS, I have something else, but man, I feel exactly the same way. I go through the anxiety and the depression like you do. I feel the same way about going to the doctors and the tests and all that stuff. So we just want to show that it's bigger than what we think it is. We just got to highlight the similarities.
Just like your
Hey,
eye. You know how you're blind one eye? And then a
Mhm.
friend of yours is like, oh man, I never knew you were blind.
Yep.
First of all, can you hear me fine or am I low? Because I keep seeing
think sometimes what happened is that it's probably me, because whenever somebody says something, I just want to jump in and I'm not giving you all a chance to
It's
talk.
fine.
So my bad.
No, I'm the
My
same
bad,
way.
Terry.
My bad. I'm the same way. Sorry, I wasn't making fun of anyone's accent. I'm the same way. Trust me. Please go for it.
So, but anyway, I think that we're making, Nick, you made a great point, and Terry, to your point as well. You know, you're not one dimensional. You know what I'm saying? Listen, I do want to make a clarification. I do not understand what it is like to be disabled, but I know what it is like to be ambitious. And for those people who are disabled in my life, and we share that, we can relate on that level.
Sure.
For those people who are athletic, we can relate on that level. You know, so we can all relate in various levels. I think, Nick, to your point, but we have to express them. Otherwise, we're not going to share them. And that's what I think I heard you say when you were saying that someone might have a different disability, but yet you can, I'm paraphrasing now, but you can in some way bond,
Right.
you know? So, you know, I feel close to a lot of people. Listen, my granddad was an amputee. I was so very close with my cousin Donna growing up, and various people in my life on a personal level, which I'm very much a loner in my personal life. In my career, I got people all around me, but you know, we relate to each other in those areas that in fact we can relate to. And
absolutely,
the fact that being disabled is not a barrier to that, and me being able-bodied is not a barrier. We relate on so many different levels. But I think what happens is that there's, as I think both of you hit on it earlier, where there's sort of a guarded feeling from the disabled population that they don't, you know, there shouldn't be like the display or objectified. And I completely and totally respect that. And again, but see, that's where I have to step back and say, I don't understand that. See, that's for me where I will show mad dog respect, because I don't understand that. So I have to step back and hear the person out and understand where they're coming from on that matter.
And I think that is a fantastic premise for a show, because you're not sideshow carnivaling people. You're genuinely interested. You're just brave enough to ask the question directly, as opposed to someone who might go their whole life going, man, if I knew somebody in a wheelchair, how do they go to the bathroom? What do they have to think about? How do they go on a plane? But they don't ask. So being okay and being comfortable enough to say, hey, listen, why don't we sit down and have a conversation? And by the way, I'm going to put it out to the whole world if you're okay with that. That's amazing. That's what we need. We need more people to integrate all over the place and focus on what we have in common. And then you'll find out we both, like the same sports team if you like the Phillies.
Relax.
tennis. I'm a tennis player. So
or tennis.
Yes, because he lived in England. No, it has nothing to do with that.
I'm gonna over here. They left me alone in the room over here, so I want to go over here and look at the control board to see what's going on. I will be back in 2 seconds. I'm actually not going to leave the room, guys. I'm just going to
not a problem.
Sure. It's easier to talk about you when you're not here.
So
I have a couple of quotes I want to read. Stuff I found what he said in quotes.
Okay.
It's pretty interesting. It shows you who he is.
Right. Well,
one of them is, I'm just doing this degree to learn more about disability history, disability law, and theory.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. There's another quote here that says, I will just keep going. It really isn't an option because it is who I am.
Yeah. That resonates all across the board. With even that's the message we're trying to drive home at the end of the day. It doesn't matter if you cane, wheelchair, limp, no problems walking, just keep going. You have something.
One more that sounds familiar to what you would say. Where did it see? What we do on our show, this is him, okay? What we do on our show is celebrate and yet normalize the successes of those people who define themselves as disabled.
There it is.
And then you understand why people would be like, you're not even disabled.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? People are always haters.
They really are.
There's one quote here that he said, Terry is my favorite in the world.
Time I've got left.
No, but he's talking right now to someone on the phone.
I know.
Which is cool.
It's all right.
Okay, Zachary is going to check to see how much time we've got left.
Okay.
How much time we've got. I have more of these if we need more, if you guys want to keep talking. I'm loving the conversations. What were y'all just going over quotes? Who was saying those quotes?
Those were your quotes. Terry was quoting you.
They were mine? How did you get that?
Oh, don't ask me how.
He's a research ninja. This dude's amazing.
Oh, okay.
I got my crew.
I don't know, guys. Listen, I tell people this all the time. I might be an academic genius, but I'm about as ditzy as they come sometimes.
Dude,
but I say that doing this show.
I love this guy, man. He has no ego.
I love it.
I might be a smart guy, but I'm not really either. Don't worry.
Can you do a quick selfie with us?
Can I be in the selfie? What's going on here?
No, not on camera.
Are we ending the show? What's going on here?
We've descended into madness.
Guys, this is Zachary.
Hi, Zach.
Hey, Zach. Is your last name Weeks? Because we got a guy named Zachary Weeks on the show soon.
We wanted to get a selfie, so turn around this way.
Okay. Take off your shirts. Hold on. Who's the selfie with? Us?
Yeah, buddy.
Good. Well, sure. Well, here, let's do it that way.
I don't know what we're doing.
I love it. I love it. I love it.
Okay, so he says we have like a little over an hour. So how much time have we spent already?
It's okay. I think it's been about 50 minutes. We can end it soon if you want.
Yeah. Hey, we got to leave more for the next time we all need to talk, right?
All right.
Isn't he great?
Oh, that's true. Okay, perfect. All right. Thank you so much, Zach. Let me tell you, we couldn't do one thing around this place without that kid. Oh my God. So anyway, okay, so we're back. I just didn't want to run out of time, but it seems like we've got a lot more time as it is.
Okay.
Just like Nick said, it's okay. We'll leave some more room for the next time we talk to you.
Episode. Okay, we have to meet up in person.
I mean, can I ask some questions then? I mean,
shoot.
You guys have been asking me 1,000 questions, so I would like to ask some to you two now.
Open book. Go for it.
Let's go.
All right. So you're both young, pretty good looking guys. I see you dressed all hip with your little caps and beards and scruffiness going on. Where do you want this image to be recognized and seen, and how far do you want it to change the
So,
stereotypical image of the disabled person, and project them into an area of super coolness that is,
You're
can
kind.
be seen all over every fashion magazine? A
when
fun, colorful question there, but I'm really trying to say, do you guys think you're lessening the stigma by being so cool and, you know,
Well, listen, I can't speak for everybody. I can only speak for myself, right? But I will say this: when I was diagnosed at 33, I did not know another person with MS who was in my age bracket. I have come to find out that there are many more people, especially with the advent of like TikTok and stuff like that. You just find people all over the place. So, yes, one of our goals for the show is to normalize it, especially for men. We talk a lot on the show about checking your ego, dealing with what's in front of you, and not pretending that it's anything it isn't. So if that makes me super cool,
so let me tell you, you saw me on Instagram when I first, came out of my shell. I was trying to show people, hey, I'm in a wheelchair, but it's not over. And I like to make people smile, as you know. I didn't feel like that was enough on Instagram. I put these videos, I didn't have any more ideas, and I wanted to be original. So the next step for me was to facilitate support groups for MS Canada. So that's what I do now. I support a few groups. I have a average of 25 people, even though there's a lot more people on the email distribution list, but only 25 on average show up. But it's cool because I'm there to support people, to make them feel heard, to validate their emotions. And essentially, that's where I met Nick. Essentially, even though we met before and then he came. But
yeah,
so that's what I did, and I still felt like that wasn't enough. I'm like, I just want to be out there. I just want to be vulnerable to the world, so they know, okay, we're normal. We're normalizing peeing ourselves. Sorry, that's my thing, not Nick's.
but so when I kind of took stock of the rough demographics, where men are about 30% of the population, 35%, depending on where you get your numbers from. So I was thinking that's really an underserved community of people right there. So I always wanted to be in radio when I was a kid, because I grew up watching WKRP in Cincinnati, and I wanted to be him. And so when I became disabled, I'm sitting around and I'm thinking, what can I do? I'm getting depressed. I'm like, my world's getting real small. I gotta talk to somebody. Therapy's not doing it. I run into Terry on Instagram. I go to these meetings with him, and this Zoom becomes our platform. And I was like, why don't we start putting this out there? And because I was making him laugh, he was making me laugh. I was like, somebody else is gonna laugh at us, and it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be great. So I don't I want to make it cool, but I want to normalize it. I want to just say, look, it's the same stuff. It's just we have an extra hitch to it now. It, it's a big deal, but it doesn't have to be everything.
And just like you
So,
said before, when someone comes up to me and says, "I had no idea," or "Thank you for saying that," that validated what I go
mhm.
through. I thought I was the only one. Man, it puts our heart, like it warms up my heart. I can't even tell you.
Yeah.
I,
Especially when we hear stories like, I heard your show and I'm now reconnecting with a relative who has MS that I hadn't talked to in 5 years because I didn't know how to talk to them. Like when you hear stuff like that, that's next level impact. You know what I mean?
Mhm, that's for sure.
yeah, that's the excellent. I love that. I mean, I don't, I have nothing. I mean, other than congratulations and keep going, and it's great. And I think that I'm using the word cool. I'm using the word cool, but I'm really trying to say normalize. Of course, I'm just saying you two guys here, and
I get it.
I hope that you do put your images along with the podcast. because it is very important for people to see images. I know podcasts are out there, but I wish every podcast had also a link to see the video too.
Sure.
Because I'm a big fan of podcasts, so
Yeah.
but I like to see the people speaking. It just is that's just my personal taste, and that might not be everybody's. Of course, if you're driving into cars or whatever, then is you can't do that. So that has a way of working itself out that way. Another thing I would like to ask is that, getting back to Terry's very profound question about, what do I consider myself, or however you phrase it, I'm paraphrasing, counselor, advocate, activist.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you want this to lead to?
You're talking about our show, right?
Yes.
Hmm.
You know what? Quite honestly,
why are you putting us on the spot, Dr. Vaigneur? Let me ask you a question. You have a TV show called Disabilities Redefined with Dr. Vaigneur, and you have a podcast. What is your podcast called?
I do not have a podcast.
Oh, you're just very much into podcasts. Maybe you could be a regular guest on our podcast.
Sure. Where do I see it going? I wanted to get to a point where people hear what we're doing and say, I can do that too. I have the same technology. And I want it to get to a point where people are sharing on their own platforms, their own digital platforms, whether it's YouTube or TikTok or Instagram, wherever it is. I want them to be comfortable in their own skin, especially if their skin now includes wheels or crutches. Like if their skin now has extra parts to it, I want them to be so comfortable because of what they heard from us that they can say, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to put myself out there. I'm not going to hide in the shadows anymore. And I want it to get to the point where someone who gets more famous than me, well, famous is a weird word, but more known than I am, and says, I'm here because I heard your show. That's where I want it to get personally. I love it when people do better than I do, because I say a lot in the show, and we talk a lot in the show. I say, you have to huddle together or you'll sink. So we all got to huddle together or we're going down. So we got to pick each other up. We got to hold each other up. We got to make sure we're all doing good, because man, it has gotten super stressful out there, and this just piles on top. So that's where I want it to go.
Yeah, me too. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
Totally fine. But that's the thing, because somewhere, you don't know who is listening, especially when you put it out digitally into the universe, and you don't know who has been struggling. You don't know how they've been struggling. And if somebody happens to stumble upon our show because they typed in MS podcasts and they hear about, our darkest days, or, our struggles or whatever, and they go, I'm the same. I don't have no idea who they are, but somehow we're the same. I don't know. I know there's a lot of people struggling, and
I always say, behind closed doors, you don't know what people are going through.
exactly.
And behind my closed doors, you have no idea, the tantrums I go through, or when I get fed up. So, but being vulnerable out there, yeah, people,
Mm-hmm.
and when people validate what we're doing is helping them,
Yeah.
again, that warms my heart. Is the best feeling. It's a natural high. Yeah.
That's the other reason why we're doing it.
It sounds like you guys at this time have found a great thing to do, that you guys are really and you're really doing well. But I think that
Thank you.
Personally, since you two are in front of me and I know you reach your audience, so my concern and my focus right now is on you two. But it sounds like that you two have found a good place to be in right now, and that's a great thing. And I guess the final question would be,
You want to be our manager?
I put it for people out there watching and are listening, how much of this current success with the podcast, and probably more so just with yourself, has been a result of you not just accepting, your disability, but embracing it? and wanting to share it?
I believe this was actually a topic we talked about accepting it or giving up. Remember this?
Yep. And go ahead, Terry. You can feel this one first.
Yeah, it depends on who you ask, of course, what accepting means, what giving up means. But just like you said, I've accepted it. I'm putting it out there publicly. If this is what you're asking, I put it out there publicly. I have no shame because I know if I'm going through it, somebody else is going through it. But I wasn't like this before. I had a lot of ego before. I would never show anyone my struggles. I would never show the image of me in a wheelchair. So this is just, it took a while for me to get out of my shell. And this is the reason why we want to normalize this. And
I it took a lot longer for me to take a picture on Instagram in the wheelchair than it did to say I use a wheelchair. But what happened is I got to a very dark space. Then I sought help. I used therapy for a little while. Then when I got to a point where I felt like I was okay enough to kind of step back from therapy, because I feel like therapy is something you can come in and out of as you need it, but that's my journey. And the time length is different for everybody. But once I got out into a good space where I was comfortable in my new skin, I just said, screw it. I'm just going to put it out there, see what happens. I'm not going to get laughed at because it's, you can always turn off the comment section if you need to. But I said, the only way that I'm going to be able to survive mentally is if I just say, yeah, this is what I have and this is what happens, and just say it and see where it lands. And it just so happened that it landed in a show. And I'm still amazed that my honesty and, like Terry said, vulnerability is enough it's just enough. And that's the other message is, people who are listening, you're enough. Just you being you. Just, we say the fight is on every time you wake up. And the fight might be you just sat up and ate breakfast and that's all you got today. But you won. You got up and you got up. And you just get up and keep battling every day. And eventually, hopefully, with science and money, there'll be something that makes life a little easier. Heck, the medicine that I'm on now didn't exist when I got diagnosed. So who knows what 10 years from now is going to look like? You just got to show up.
I don't know about you, but shouldn't he be on the radio, this guy? He's a good talker.
Shouldn't I be on the radio?
You too. Don't get me wrong. You too.
Oh yeah, no, I should not be on the. No, I think Nick should be on the. Yes, Nick should
definitely. Yeah.
Yes. Well, I think you both should be on the radio, and I think you both should. I guess what the overall ideas you've got and just wanting to share it. That's such a huge part of wanting to share. That makes a podcast like this successful. So would you ever consider doing like a TED talk or something like that? Or would you?
If TED would have me, if TEDx would have me, I would for sure get up there. Absolutely. I have no problem with that. I'm a subscriber. I'm a Patreon of TED.
For sure. I think our next step is to go to New York to some studio.
What I heard.
I heard Dr. Vaigneur is going to send a helicopter to pick us up next week.
Well, I told you, Terry, you should plan on coming over. I've been trying to get Terry to come over here because we do a lot of photo sessions on our show, and I'm dying to get Terry over here with his girl, with his other half, and let's do a nice little fashion shoot going on. But that will materialize when the time is right.
Here's the thing. Terry and I have never met in person. So New York's kind of the halfway point.
Easy there.
We could do a whole special. 40 Below goes to New York.
You could. In this not in this very room. We would go to the big studio, but you could do it right here in this very building.
I smell a collab.
The problem is me getting to the border with no issues. And I have no issues. Don't get me wrong. Maybe we should film that. That would be a nice episode on its own.
So where can our listeners find all of your stuff other than the links that we're going to put underneath the show?
Well, the best thing to really do if you're not in New York City is just go to www.disabilitiesredefined.com. Most of the recent shows are there on the website. You can always find me on YouTube as well. The YouTube channel is always out there, Disabilities Redefined with Dr. Vaigneur. But we have a very strong TV following here in New York City. I don't know why that happened that way. Whenever I started the show, it was after, getting back to the beginning of our show tonight, it was after I had just gave up not gave up, but walked away from smiling, very happy, to just leave scholarship alone and do something in the media and the children's books. And what happens is that a friend of mine said, we'll get in touch with MNN and see what you have to do, Manhattan Neighborhood Network. So I did, and about 3 months later, we did the first show. So from that moment until now, it has really progressed. It's gotten a lot better. It's gotten a lot more simple. We've got it down to a very smooth science. Like today, it took us maybe 5 minutes to get ready. When the Zoom link turned on, we were actually getting ready. Like that's when everybody came together. Back in the day, it would have been a 30-minute ordeal, Yeah. So we've got it down to a science. But I think that I don't know. I can't finish it. Well, yeah. I don't want to say go to Google me because I don't know what's going to show up. The University of New York, or with, you know what I'm saying. So,
don't worry, we'll put all in descriptions.
We'll link it all.
Yeah,
sure.
Well. Yeah,
but really, the best thing to do really is either YouTube or www.disabilitiesredefined. And of course, if you're in New York City, check it out. And again, like I was saying, I don't know how that happened. I'm not good in social media. I'll be the first one to say, I don't know about you two or not, but I'm not really good. I didn't really promote. I didn't do anything. The show kind of evolved in the way it did. And I will also say that it could be my age, but more people that get in touch with me asking, for advice or help are actually parents of college, soon to be college students. And I think really what happens is that they see the show or they see some blurb or something out there, and then they'll Google me, and then I think the City University of New York might show up, and then they realize I'm a counselor and a professor on the university level. So that listen, when you put yourself out there, who knows? It almost has a mind of its own. That's why I'm kind of afraid to say how to find, how do you find somebody these days? It's almost like, how do you find anybody these days, right? So, yeah. But where are you guys? What's going on? It's Spotify, Apple TV. What's the link? How can my audience find you here in New York? What should they do?
I'll let Nick talk about this because you're going to experience Terry having to go to the washroom. I'll be back, guys.
4tbelowzero.com. So the number 4, the letter T, belowzero.com. That's our website. That links directly to the show. But other than that, you can search 40 Below Zero on all the major platforms. We're primarily on Spotify. We're also on, we put it out through their hosting site. So it goes to Google, it goes to Apple, it goes to Amazon, Kindle, Audible, not Kindle, Audible. And next year, I think we're going to get into YouTube. We just didn't start there, so it was kind of like an afterthought. And plus, we really didn't know how well it was going to go. And honestly, it was so new for both of us. It was like, do I really want to put my face out there? I don't know. It's
that is, yeah. But see, I would think that would be what I would prefer you to do, to be honest with you, as I kind of led up to, back in midway or whenever it was in this interview today.
Mhm.
I think you and Terry would be great putting your face out there. I think that you two would be the perfect people to put your face out there.
Thank you.
And it's not that difficult really to have a YouTube channel. I mean, everybody can have a channel.
Yeah.
You can buy a nice professional camera. I mean, it's not going to be cheap, but it's not going to be super expensive. And then edit through Pro, which is what, now we have a TV show here. So, I mean, this is the podcast room, which you all don't see, but between me and you, there's about 5 speakers like this one. I'm sitting at the end of a round table.
Sure.
So I will just do a quick video of it here now so I can send it to you and maybe even edit it in on the show. But yeah, it is, we really have a lot of space here.
Excellent.
And
Now,
then
in our discussions, our next natural progressive step would be to go on YouTube. We did 2 seasons this year. So I think when we wrap season 2, we're really going to start talking about what the next step is and how to go that way. And it's probably going to be YouTube's the natural, now that they had a podcast tab that they added. So why wouldn't you?
Yeah. I
well,
think
you
YouTube's
guys
smarter.
don't really have to have a full-on channel. I mean, well, yeah, no, what I'm saying is you do have to have a channel,
Mhm.
but you can quite simply put shorts out. It's not like you have to do, a full-on 15-20 minute show. I mean,
Right.
you could actually just do shorts in the beginning or something like that. A lot of people start out that way. Terry, I was just telling Nick that I just didn't know what I was doing. So I came to a TV studio. So we have big TV cameras and we have a control. But I mean, really at the end of the day, with technology being the way it is, you can get a good professional camera, sync it together on Pro, man, you can have a nice, sleek, stylish show in no time, So I would say that, and I was also telling him, as we spoke about earlier today, that he said that, in the beginning, you guys, well, I'm paraphrasing, Nick, but you were saying that, you didn't know if you wanted to put your faces out there.
Mhm.
And I'm thinking to myself, well, you guys are the ones that should put your faces out there, So in that respect, I think it would just be the natural progression to go into YouTube. If that's what you want to do, but if that's what you have to want to do, but if that's what you
Agreed.
want to do, then yes, I think it would be a good idea.
Parting words.
Parting words is, it has been great. It has been an absolute pleasure as always, seeing you, Terry. Man, I don't know what to say. It's like, meeting people like you is what it's all about. I really can't express it in words. I can't put it together, but you know how I feel about you. And we'll meet face to face soon enough. I know we will. And in the meantime, I'll keep you in my heart where you need to be anyway. And Nick, it was an absolute pleasure meeting you. I'm looking forward to the next time we get to see each other, whether also in face or on technology in some form or another. But I will say honestly that I wish you both absolutely the best with your podcast. I think it's an amazing venture. It is 101% sincere, honest, good-hearted information that only really can result in something positive. I don't see how anything can not be positive about this podcast. So I will say that I hope it will continue.
Thank you.
I want to say there might be times when you're tired, but keep doing it. Just keep doing it, and it'll work itself out.
Absolutely. Disabilities Redefined with Dr. Vaigneur. The pleasure was all ours, sir. Till we meet again.
Thank you so much. Yeah. So check us out at 40belowzero.com. That's 4-T-below-0.com. Or feel free to reach out to us. We'd love to hear from you. Our email address is info@40belowzero.com. Our personal Instagram account are, for Nick's, it's Nix_V713. Or for Terry, it's What's_MS. Awesome. Looking forward to hearing from you guys. We'll talk soon.